Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, a new bill aiming to get China's hands off America's emergency oil. That's as the reserve stockpile hits a 40-year low. The explosive growth of cross-border e-commerce has caught the attention of U.S. lawmakers, shining a spotlight on a tax rule that critics say has allowed packages from China to enter the U.S. duty-free. We hear more from a U.S. border security officer. A lone Philippine supply boat pursued by a Chinese vessel in the South China Sea. More on the chase at sea and a pledge from the Philippines president. Beijing opening its most important political meetings of the year. More on the significant break with precedent this year. New efforts to stop China from buying oil from America's emergency stockpile. Congressional leaders releasing new bills Sunday to prevent a potential government shutdown. If passed, it would ban China from buying oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, America's emergency oil stockpile, in case supplies fall short. In 2022, the U.S. arm of Chinese state-owned oil giant Sinopec bought over 1 million barrels of oil from the reserve. At the time, oil prices were spiking following Russia's war on Ukraine, and the White House released records amount of oil from the reserve to bring down prices. At the time, the oil sales to China sparked controversy.
Strategic petroleum reserves to China. Supporting this language is common sense, especially since we need to focus on increasing energy production and not supporting from our adversaries while Americans are still suffering from outrageously high fuel prices here at home. These reserves are meant to be used for emergencies only. They are not meant to be used when our leadership has failed us by unnecessarily restricting domestic energy production. What is even more concerning is that under the Biden administration, our strategic petroleum reserve supplies have been severely diminished, and it does not make sense that we are using our already depleted energy supplies to help China build up their own strategic reserves. It is irresponsible and dangerous for the United States to provide our foreign adversary with fuel that we desperately need to keep here in the United States in case of an emergency. It seems that
Back in 2017, the Trump administration also sold some oil from the reserve to an arm of PetroChina, another state-owned Chinese oil and gas company. The emergency oil reserve now has over 360 million barrels of oil. It's hitting a 40-year low after the 2022 drawdown. House lawmakers are set to vote on the funding bill on Tuesday when they return to the floor. Ever wondered why products from Chinese retailers are so cheap? Those packages may have dodged all U.S. duties and taxes on its way to your doorstep. How? Let's take a closer look.
Cheap products from China are landing in U.S. mailboxes tariff-free thanks to a trade law. It's called the Minimus rule, and it allows parcels valued at $800 to enter the U.S. duty-free as long as they're shipped to individuals. Over 1 billion de minimis packages came through the U.S. Customs last year, a 646% increase in just 8 years.
China is responsible for quite a significant portion of the e-commerce small packages that are coming into the United States.
LaFonda Sutton-Burke leads a U.S. Customs and Border Protection office that oversees one of the nation's busiest ports for de minimis parcels. Data shows China is the biggest source of retail packages entering the U.S., accounting for the bulk of nearly 3 million small parcels that come through customs every day under the de minimis rule. As a result, those packages would probably not have undergone U.S. Customs or safety inspections.
When we're talking about just the 1 billion shipments, we're talking about a variety, where it's ranging from anything to pill press die sets that people were utilizing to make, fentanyl that is devastating our communities, but we're also talking about, fake or counterfeit jewelry.
De minimis was originally meant to reduce processing burdens on low-value imports, But with the U.S. de minimis value skyrocketing to $800 in 2016, the policy is leading to an explosion of these kinds of shipments. In contrast, China has set its de minimis at a much lower rate, just $10. Virginia Gibson, NTD News.
A House lawmaker is taking aim at a trade loophole he says China is exploiting amid forced labor concerns. That's after Border Patrol revealed a steep rise in imports that fall under a certain trade rule. Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher chairs the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. The trade loophole he's calling attention to is called a de minimis exemption. It means that any foreign imports valued at less than $800 don't face import duties. His latest statement cites new data from Customs and Border Protection, showing more than 485 million de minimis shipments have already entered the United States in fiscal year 2024, on top of the over 1 billion shipments that entered tax-free in 2023. Gallagher went on to say no less than 94% of all import transactions now enter the U.S. through de minimis rules, accounting for 90% of all illegal narcotics, agricultural goods, and counterfeit seizures by customs. The lawmaker blames the loophole for exporting American jobs overseas and allowing Chinese companies using Uyghur forced labor to a, quote, complete pass. Tensions unfolding in the South China Sea. A Chinese vessel chased a Philippine supply boat traveling through the strategic area. The Philippine boat was delivering aid to fishermen near the Scarborough Shoal. Video shows a Chinese vessel appearing to chase the Philippine ship. Despite the blockade, the Philippines boat was reported to have successfully delivered its supplies to the Filipino fishermen there. China currently lays claim to almost the entire South China Sea, one of the world's busiest sea lanes. A United Nations-backed tribunal in 2016 deemed its claims groundless. The Scarborough Shoal is just 150 miles from the Philippines, but over 550 miles from China. Last week, a floating barrier was reportedly deployed by the Chinese Coast Guard to keep Philippine boats from entering the shoal. A pledge from the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., saying on Monday that his country would work with China, but would also stand up for its own sovereign rights.
Our independent foreign policy compels us to cooperate with them on matters where our interests align, to respectfully disagree on areas where our views differ, and to push back when our sworn principles, such as our sovereignty, our sovereign rights, and our jurisdiction in the West Philippine Sea, are questioned or ignored.
He made the remarks during a visit to Australia. China claims the South China Sea as its own territory, including an area the Philippines calls its own exclusive economic zone. A 2016 international tribunal rules China's claim invalid. Over $3 trillion of trade passes through the South China Sea every year. Now we turn to Beijing. China is kicking off its most important annual political meetings on Monday. Called the Two Sessions, this is when China's legislature and top advisory body gather to discuss state matters from the economy to defense. And for the first time since 1993, China's premier isn't holding a news conference after the meeting. The Two Sessions is largely seen as a political performance, since the Chinese regime's leadership makes decisions behind closed doors. Though experts usually still keep an eye out for China's in-party official speeches, any changes in party official speech, as they could signal changes in policy directions. Rising TikTok scrutiny and a record surge of illegal Chinese immigrants at the U.S. borders. Where are U.S.-China relations ultimately heading? NTD's Jack Bradley spoke with John Mills, retired colonel and senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy, to discuss.
Now to the U.S. and how we're seeing a record surge in illegal immigration, and a large part of those are Chinese nationals, many of your military age here. What's the concern here?
There are clearly a number of them. You look at them, flat stomach, good teeth, military haircuts, don't want to talk to you. and I've been down in Panama looking at this. Clearly, they trace to, I would call it the Strategic Support Force, which is their equivalent of Special Operations Command. They're flowing past Tucson. What do we have in southern Tucson right by the airport? The Raytheon plant that makes Tomahawks. This is of grave concern. We have thousands of illegals daily going by one of our most sensitive missile plants.
TikTok is probably one of the most popular apps in the nation right now, and there's a concern. The U.S. government has already issued an order for all government-issued devices, you're not allowed to have TikTok. Now, why are they doing that?
The Ministry of State Security, the intelligence apparatus for Communist China, they are replicating digital twins of every single citizen of America through every possible source of data. That's why they break into some of these genealogy websites. But TikTok is part of that because they create a profile, a digital profile of every user. And there is essentially, this is a psychological operations to manipulate people's feelings and behavior. They're using big data analytics, and AI to essentially change the way people think. And if TikTok, the basic tell on this, if TikTok is okay, why don't they allow it in China? They don't allow it in China. They offer a different version that is far more regulated, and in their social credit score, they get marked down for watching it too much. TikTok is digital fentanyl. It's intentional psyop aimed at our population. There's no reason anybody should be using it.
And as far as the security concern, and even with Huawei phones, there's a concern that they're collecting data, but there's more to it there. What else should we be concerned with there?
Well, absolutely. That's part of the digital twin program, is because they have access to all of your activity. Let's take DJI drones, for example. You can't turn the rotors without authenticating your phone to the DJI network, which means your phone and all the contents you have given very easy access to the Ministry of State Security when you authenticate your phone to the DJI network. Same with Huawei. There's all kinds of hidden back doors inside the phone and the Huawei routers here.
John Mills, thank you very much for your time here.
Thank you.
Next, we'd like to take a moment to share some of your comments about our show. A number of viewers sent in comments on our top story on our last episode. One comment offered up a summary of China's current situation. It reads, China's demographic decline, marked by a record low total fertility rate and a shrinking population, poses a significant challenge to its economic growth and stability. This trend, coupled with strained relations with key trading partners, highlights the urgent need for policy reforms to address labor shortages, healthcare costs, and potential fiscal deficits. The comment goes on to suggest the long-term implications, including lower housing demand and structural economic slowdown, underscore the importance of strategic planning and international cooperation to mitigate challenges. The trend follows a general shift in Chinese society in recent years as public sentiment towards the Chinese Communist Party takes a further plunge. You might have noticed how Top Gun attempted to strip the Taiwanese and Japanese flags off of Tom Cruise's jacket, or how Iron Man 3 inserted a Chinese doctor into the movie who saves the life of Tony Stark. Is it artistic license or something more sinister? These are the issues explored in the groundbreaking new documentary Hollywood Takeover: China's Control in the Film Industry. This NTD original film pulls back the curtain on how Hollywood is helping to further a global adversary's agenda, the consequences that will have on America's future, and what brave individuals are doing to change the tide. The film is premiering on the red carpet in Los Angeles on March 6th at 6:30 p.m., and the film will be released globally on March 8th on Epoch TV. For more information about the documentary, please visit HollywoodTakeover.com. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 3 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform, Epic TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Here's what to look out for in our second half. At the nation's capital Monday, Chinese dissidents laid out blueprints for a future China without communism. We spoke to some of them for details. A new documentary reveals Hong Kong's fight for freedom. Find out why Hong Kongers are eager to have their voices heard. And an expert says China's communist leader has an ultimate goal to overtake America as the world's largest economic power by 2035. That's as the nation grapples with economic decline. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.